In today's digital economy, where teams are spread out and work isn't just happening in one building anymore, our whole idea of leadership is, well, it's breaking. We desperately need an upgrade. We've got to move away from seeing leadership as some kind of personality trait they're born with and start understanding it as a system, something you can actually design.
In this quote right here, man, it just gets straight to the heart of it. It completely flips the old model on its head. See, true leadership isn't about how great you are at your job. It's about how well your team can function when you're not even there. The real test of a leader is the strength and clarity of the system they leave behind.
So let's get real for a second. I want you to ask yourself a tough question. If you suddenly had to go offline for a week, maybe even a month, what would happen? Would your team or your business just grind to a halt? Or would they keep moving, making smart decisions and actually growing? The answer to that question tells you everything you need to know about your leadership style right now.
This brings us to what we call the leadership bottleneck. In a world of remote work, that traditional hero leader, the one who has to sign off on everything, they become the single biggest blocker to progress. When every decision has to funnel through one person, you're not driving growth anymore. You're strangling it. That model just doesn't scale. No way.
So here's the difference side by side. The old way of doing things, it was all about authority, control, and literally being present to oversee everything. But the new system, it's built on totally different pillars. It's about creating absolute clarity, giving your team trust by default, and getting everyone aligned so they can move forward together, not because you're breathing down their necks.
And this leads us to the core metaphor of this whole explainer, thinking of your leadership as an operating system, or an OS. This is a huge mental shift. Leadership isn't something you are, it's something you build. Your job changes from being a director shouting commands to being a designer, an architect who builds an environment where people can win.
So what do we really mean by a leadership OS? It's pretty simple, actually. It's the set of rules, principles, and processes you create that lets your team operate at a super high level totally independently. It's the framework that guides them so they can make the right call even when you're not in the room.
Okay, so how do we actually build this thing? It's not as complicated as it sounds. This operating system is really built on 5 core principles. Think of these as the fundamental building blocks you can use to start designing your own leadership system, starting today.
First up, visibility shapes behavior. This is such a simple but powerful rule. Praise in public, correct in private. See, when you celebrate a great piece of work out in the open, you're not just making one person feel good, you're literally broadcasting to the entire team, this is what good looks like. And when you handle mistakes one-on-one, you protect that person's dignity and build an environment where people feel safe to try and even fail, which is where all the real growth happens.
Principle number 2 is a big one. Example outperforms enforcement. Look, you can write a 100-page employee handbook, but at the end of the day, people are going to follow what you do, not what you say they should do. Your consistency in your work habits, how you communicate, the decisions you make, that's the single most powerful tool for getting everyone on the same page without ever having to force.
Third, and this is so important, capability is built, not assumed. It is so easy to get frustrated when someone isn't meeting your expectations. But you have to ask yourself, did I ever actually train them on this? A great system never just tells people what to do, it shows them. You document it, you demonstrate it, and you let them practice. Great performance is always a result of great preparation. All right, principle 4 is where real empowerment kicks in. Ownership requires clear outcomes. You've got to stop managing tasks and start managing outcomes. The moment you make someone responsible for a result, not just checking off a list of steps, you unlock their creativity and their problem-solving ability. Just define what a win looks like with absolute clarity and then get out of their way.
And that brings us to the 5th and final principle, the one that acts like fuel for the whole system. Trust accelerates everything. Micromanagement is the absolute enemy of speed. The fastest teams run on trust. Now, this isn't about blind faith. You grant trust by default, but you back it up with clear feedback loops and regular check-ins. It's that combination, trust plus visibility, that lets you move incredibly fast without things descending into chaos. Okay, so these 5 principles, they sound good in theory, right? But what do they actually look like in the real world? Let's talk about how this OS actually runs in the digital spaces where so many of us work every single day. So what does this look like in practice? Well, for a remote team, it means instead of constant just checking in messages, you have a shared dashboard where progress is visible to everybody.
For an online business, it means defining roles by the outcomes they own, not just the laundry list of tasks. The goal is always the same, no matter the context. You want to build a system that rewards people for thinking and taking initiative, not just for quietly following orders. So, as we wrap things up here, let's think about this like we're installing a critical software update for your brain. What are the key takeaways you need to load into your own leadership operating system?
Here are the 4 big ideas I really want to stick with you. First, leadership is an operating system you design, not a personality you're born with. Second, a well-designed, clear environment will always be constant hands-on supervision. Third, that magic formula for speed and ownership, it's trust plus visibility. And finally, remember that real, sustainable growth doesn't come from pushing people harder. It comes from building systems where people can actually win.
And that leaves us with one last, really important question for you to think about. Right now, is your leadership totally dependent on your personality, your presence, and your own personal effort? Or have you started building an operating system that truly empowers your team to thrive, with or without you? Because the future of work, it belongs to the designers.